The sun is out and it is a beautiful day. And today, in a change of pace, we're going to talk about my solar array. Because unlike Nikki's 15 kilowatt peak behemoth, our array is a little bit more ordinarily sized. And you all have been asking, how does that work in the Pacific Northwest? And not just because, yeah, like our cars, our solar array does indeed need a wash. So let's get down and dirty with some CSV files and a spreadsheet, because yeah, I'm just that kind of girl. And of course, since we're talking about solar, this video is sponsored by Energy Sage. So we've talked a lot about Nikki's array. That generates around 60 kilowatt hours per day right now, which is handy because her house houses the Transport Evolved media servers and also charges both the TE truck and their other car and sometimes our DP's car. Along with that, she often also has to charge our loan vehicles. So her usage is, shall we say, perhaps not comparable to some of the other folks watching this channel. So you'll get an idea. On average, over the past 2.5 years, we've typically used around 843 kilowatt hours a month to run our 900 square foot home. That's around 84 square meters. We do have gas central heating, which we turn on in the winter, but through the spring, the summer and the fall, we mostly use a heat pump. And for those diving in for the first time, we drive 2 EVs. Both of them are behind the camera right now and hooked up, and they cover combined probably around 20k per year. That's in miles. They almost exclusively charge at home. Our array was installed and commissioned in December 2022. We really rushed the installation process. We went through a lot of stuff ahead of time and we'd thought about it for a while, but we wanted to get in before the federal tax rebate was cancelled, and there was every possibility at that point that it might have been. It wasn't, and we actually could have had a bit more of a leisurely pass through the installation process, but as it was, it meant we got everything done really nice and quickly and got everything installed. That process was pretty simple. We had someone first take a look at the house through the Google Maps imaging of the land from above. And then once we'd got the orientation down, the roof area down, they came and looked at the amount of shade that it would have. And then we did some calculations, worked out what we could possibly do with our roof. Now, our house runs effectively north-south, and so we could have panels on both sides, but financially we didn't really feel like that was worth it at this point. And with the panels that we put on, our best case target was that we might offset up to 68% of our energy use. We had everything set up. We had a first installer all set up, and the only person who could install on metal roofs that they had on their team fell off someone else's roof. I really hope he's okay. I don't actually know. I know he broke, I believe, his wrist at the time and was obviously then unable to install. And so we had to find another installer quickly and then run through that whole quote process and installation process again, or the prep for installation. We also, for those who watched us when we did our updates at the time, we had some problems with commissioning. There was some miscommunication with the permitting. So the array was actually turned on before it should have been, before PSE had approved it. The city had approved the wiring, everything had been checked, but PSE hadn't come and done their final little stamp of approval to say, yes, you can turn it on and yes, you have net metering. So we had it on and then we had it turned off for a while and then we had it back on. In terms of the commissioning, we also did have a bit of a problem in that this end-phase box, which contains the magic gubbins that monitors the system overall and also links to the Wi-Fi and the portal, that wasn't set up quite right. And for some reason, and I cannot find my emails about this, unfortunately, because I wanted to check, but my recollection is that it was reading the output from the array as part of our usage, as well as counting it as part of energy generation. So what would happen is the array's energy generation come up, and then it would say that our house's usage had come up to match it, and then it would fall and our energy usage would apparently fall, and it took a while before we managed to sort that out. It turned out to be a wiring issue. They got it sorted. We in the Pacific Northwest, in the bit of the Pacific Northwest that we have net metering, as I mentioned. That means that when we feed in a kilowatt hour, we're entitled to a kilowatt hour back. We basically zero out the cost of that kilowatt hour. It does only mean that we can bank it until I think it's January when it resets. And at that point, our bank goes back to zero no matter what we've done. So if in the summer we generated tons of energy and fed it into the grid, there is the possibility that come January we would lose that if we hadn't used that energy back up, which is annoying because we generate in the summer at our peak. And then spring, fall and winter are less high generation. And we will talk about some actual numbers with that. So this system on our house is a 5.92 kilowatt hour array. That's its nameplate capacity. But the inverters that we have max out at a continuous 5.5 kilowatts. The solar panels themselves are Silfab 370HCs, which have about a 20% efficiency and a 25-year lifespan. They are made in, I think, Canada, and they are expected, although they have that 25-year lifespan, they are expected to still produce around 83% of their new output at 30 years old. So they should be on the house for a good long time. We mated those with IQ8A inverters from Enphase, hence the Enphase box. Those have microgrid capability, which means that in theory, if we had a power cut and we had the rest of the components of the system set up, our house could form its own microgrid. It could just power itself off the solar panels. We do not have all of that set up. The IQ8As were bought as a kind of forward planning measure. Hopefully we might do that later. But at the moment, in the event of a power cut, we just lose power, same as everyone else. But it shouldn't be too complicated in the future if we want to add that facility. It also means that we can add a backup battery as well. That is another possibility. So we'll talk about those at the end. But really what I think you're here for, because you're all weird like me, is some numbers. First up, the fully installed commissioned price, that is wiring everything into the panel, all these nice boxes here, hooking everything up to the house, doing the permitting, putting the panels on the roof, that was $17,206. Over the 2 and a bit years, we've generated 13,050 kilowatt hours of energy. That I actually wrote that this morning and it's gone up a bit. So I think at the end of the script, I might give you a different number, but it's pretty close. That is about 13 megawatt hours. And that electricity would have cost us in the ballpark of $1,500 over the 2.5 years. It's kind of difficult to work out exactly how much it would cost without actually going through and finding every single statement from the energy company, because our prices change quite a lot. And that's actually something I realized when I was prepping for this video, because I thought I would just pull a couple of numbers from them, but actually going through them, like there's a 1% increase here, there's a 5% increase there. It's very strange. Okay, so we got $5,000 back as part of the federal tax rebate. So all in all, this cost us around $12,000 to install. Although we did get a solar loan to install that, and that came from our local credit union, well, a local credit union, not actually our one, and they charge us 3.4% APR. We'll come back to that number at the end because I'm gonna use 12,000 kind of as our break-even point, but I'm really not bothering with calculating the APR, since this is basically a level of calculations where you can just wave your hands in the air like you just don't care. So let's pull up a graph and have a look at energy usage and production. There's a bump in the summer for production, then that tails off in the winter, which is kind of what you'd expect. And in the peak of the summer, we produce more than we use. Our winner was when we were away for a month and banked nearly 500 kilowatt hours that we didn't use because we weren't charging the car and everything was pretty much off in the house. And that carried us through to the next couple of months of energy usage, which was really rather nice. And if you are excited by the prospect of being able to do that with your home and you're in the US and thinking you might want to consider getting solar panels, or a heat pump installed, or you're thinking about joining a community solar program before the federal government ends all clean energy incentives, you should probably speak to our show's sponsor, Energy Sage. Energy Sage connects you with local verified solar installers across the US and now heat pump specialists in select markets. These people really know their stuff and can guide you through installing solar panels or getting a heat pump. Not a homeowner? No worries. Energy Sage can still help you green your electricity by joining a community solar program. Nikki used Energy Sage when looking for installers to put solar panels on her roof, and their verified pros were knowledgeable and even introduced her to a great credit union to finance the project with low monthly payments. Follow the links below to sign up for Energy Sage's free, no-obligation services and get started today. If you choose an Energy Sage installer, we'll receive a small referral fee, so you'll be helping us too. Help the grid get greener, save money, and support our show. It's a win-win-win. Okay, now where it all falls down is that the energy that we generate is not mostly at the time that we want to use it. If you look at a random daily graph, you'll find that, well, we're putting lots of energy into the grid, which gives us back the energy through net metering, but it means we're not actually using the generated energy from our own solar panels. It means that we're generating lots of energy in the summer at times that probably coincide with other people's peak usage. So it's nice that we're helping the grid out. And of course, if you've watched one of our other videos about saving money when charging your EV, you'll know that our Kia Niro EV, we have signed up to PSE's charge management so they can slow or pause charging during periods of high demand, because our Niro rarely needs the range that a full battery pack would supply, so we're happy to let them delay things and let it charge overnight when demand is lower. But looking at this graph from May, which is pretty typical, it's not a hugely productive day, but this is a nice early day in May. You can see our heat pump in the background just kind of doing its stuff, but the car preheats in the morning and we're not producing energy then through solar, and it charges in the evening when we're not producing energy through solar. Which is why if we layer on a usage graph to that graph we were looking at earlier, you'll see that we're still very grid dependent. And in terms of offset, we've actually only hit around 50%, not our targeted 68%. That is over the lifetime that we've had the panels. We've consumed about 24 megawatt hours and produced around 13 megawatt hours. Probably our estimates were slightly optimistic and we considered how much energy we were using. We did these calculations really at a time when COVID was still a significant barrier to our life. It was making it very difficult for us to go out and do things. So we basically stayed at home. We went to work and went home, and that was pretty much it. And so our energy usage has obviously become higher because we're charging 2 vehicles at home. But also, I've got more social. I play in a band and I have friends in other cities that I go visit, so I've been driving much more. It's also been getting hotter. Every year is the hottest one on record, and every year our heat pump has to work a little bit harder to keep the house cool. It's a small change each year, but it's there. And then there are the cars. We review cars on this channel, and they've got bigger, and they've got less efficient. And so when they come up here and we charge them, we're using more energy. We had the Hummer more than once. That used the same amount of energy in a day that we normally use in a month. Yes, I do hate it. Future upgrades that we might then consider. First up, obviously battery storage. If we were storing the energy on site rather than shipping it off to the grid and then bringing it back, we might actually be better at using it to charge the vehicles that we have, which would be nice. Obviously, that's something that we'll do if we're going to stay here and not having to move abroad. We could also fit another 5 kilowatts or so on the back of the house, and our house roofline, as I said, is north-south, so both sides are pretty good for solar. We would love to do that maybe as a DIY project. I don't feel like we need someone else to do it, having seen how it's done. It's not that complicated, and with a metal roof you just kind of clamp it onto the ridges. So that's also something that we might do in the future. We'd also like to upgrade so we can use the microgrid functionality of the microinverters up underneath the panels on the roof. That functionality would allow us to be better covered for brownouts and indeed power outages, especially since if you've been in the Discord chat, you will know that both the UPSs that I have died, and I keep meaning to buy batteries and failing. But all of that depends on us staying here longer term, which for reasons we might not be. Let's just say we might be moving abroad. But that leaves the final question of payback time. It's tricky to estimate because electricity costs, as I say, keep changing and pretty dramatically. On average, we've been seeing between 6 and 12% increase per year. These figures that I'm going to pop up on screen now, these are very rough figures based on an average 8% per year increase. And that means that we'll have earned back the cost of installing in deductions on our electricity bill in around 2034 if we are still in this house. And yes, that is very rough math. I know, I'm not counting on it. So when we chose to install our solar panels, we knew we were doing it as a thing that other people can see that you can do this. You can have EVs, you can have solar panels, and you can do it on a tract home in the suburbs. Like, I mean, we're not really suburbs, we're kind of edge of the city, but you know, this house was built as a cheap rental. It's not a cheap rental anymore because housing prices. But we wanted to make a statement about this is something that you can do more than just getting solar energy for ourselves. Because realistically, this was not an investment for us. This was a cost that we've eaten and we will probably lose money on when we sell the house, and that's fine. But if you're staying in a house for a while, like in 10 years, this set of panels will have paid back their cost. And everything that we get from that point on is gravy. And to be honest, knowing that we spend months where we generate more energy than we put into the grid, that feels pretty damn awesome. So if you have questions about our array or Nikki's, drop them in the Discord or the Patreon chat and we will have a look and see if we can answer them. But that is how our array is doing. And I am dying in this heat, so I am going to go inside. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us today. And if you've got thoughts, make sure you leave them in our Discord room, on our Patreon page, down below, or you can reach out to us on Mastodon or Blue Sky. Thanks to the amazing list of people scrolling by on your screen right now. They're part of the massive community of supporters who make this channel possible, helping us through Patreon and YouTube, covering our bills, paying our team, and helping us to remain 100% independent. If you'd like to join them and see your name listed here and mispronounced horribly by me, just follow the links below. We've got options across a range of different price points from $1.50 US a month. A massive welcome to our newest supporters, Rochliu, Lynn Mogren, Yalalfi, Abigail, Jason Hellman, Mike, Raz Das, Jay, Jim Boyer, Trebor Stelefel HB, Calvin Clemie, Abel Ardo Conessa, John Snyder, Scott Matheson, Mia Hartman, Philip Paul, Randolph Lee, Simon Cottle, Stephen Meadows, BGB Thalben, Christian Rasmussen, James Holroyd, Robin Halston, MK Duffer, S.A. Gimpson, Chip Chandler, Jeff Harrop, N.Y. Murr, Robert Betancourt, Jason Bodor, Brian Newton, and Mark. To join the list and get your shout-out, become a paid Patreon member for your moment of fame, and you can even gift membership to someone else. If you'd like to support us with a one-off donation, you'll find links below to make Ko-fi and Bitcoin donations. And we even have an old-fashioned PO box you can reach us at, for the time being, addressed below. You'll also find links to our swag store, and if you are someone who has to shop on Amazon, please consider using our affiliate link so we get the commission, not Jeff Bezos. So we can continue to focus on making our content even better and reduce burnout, we're being a little freer with our release days, but plan on dropping new content every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on our main channel, plus something on Sunday over on TE Take 2. If you want more, the algorithm that hates us thinks you should be watching this video, but this video is the one we'd like you to check out. Be kind, be awesome, be intentional, and don't forget to resist. Keep evolving!